These videos are brought to you through the donations of people that are enjoying them. So if you do enjoy them and you want to support this, then go to my website, lissaslight.com, and donate. Thank you. The topic tonight is, what do I do with these underlying feelings? Um, and to begin with, I like to start with getting us, in the most expanded state we can get into for this moment, and from that place, explore this topic. So we'll do that. We'll do a little bit of a guided meditation, getting into closer to the truth of who we are. Then we'll do the topic. We might do a little healing circle. We'll see how time goes, because I like to have enough of a discussion. Okay, so get comfortable, and you can leave your eyes open or closed. It doesn't matter. But we're going to start this a little differently based on what I learned from everybody yesterday in yesterday's meeting. Get comfortable and put your feet flat. Put your feet flat. Feel the ground under your feet. Actually allow yourself to feel your energy going down into the earth, so that you're grounded, so that there's a grounding while you can expand out beyond the form of our world. So we're grounding and then expanding. And as I'm doing this, I feel the energy shifting. I feel myself opening to a shift in the frequency. And because there is no time and space, and we are meeting in a field of consciousness, we can share this shift in frequency. Allowing it into our bodies, allowing it into every cell of our body. It has a vibration to it, has an energetic to it. It's the frequency that we begin to feel as we get close to the boundless consciousness, which has no sensation at all. But as we get close, there's a frequency. Allowing that shift to happen, letting go now of everything you identify with. Thoughts, feelings, sensations, how your body is, everything that you've done in your life that you hold on to, that you think means who you are, things that you haven't done. You're allowing everything to be released from your psyche. Fears, regrets, sadnesses, accomplishments, history, how you were raised, what you went through, what your family is like, what you wish they were like. Releasing everything. We have to go naked. We have to go empty into the boundless. Anything we bring with us is in the way. We empty out the boundless doesn't have sensations. It's not an experience. It is love itself, but not the experience of love. It is stillness itself, and yet not the experience of stillness. It's empty and full, and yet not the experience of empty or full. And these words that you're hearing now do not make sense to the mind. You just let them roll around, wash through you, empty you, clear you of yourself, so that all that is left is boundless stillness, love, consciousness. And that is what we are. Everything else arises in that. Nothing occurs outside of consciousness. Everything occurs within consciousness. We are consciousness. No need to understand. We just are. And let's rest here for a little while. Okay. So we'll share later during the time when we're discussing this topic, we can share about this meditation too, if we want to. Okay, so what do I do with this underlying feeling? What I realized at some point was that I had an underlying feeling that was kind of like a default emotion that I would always sink into. And sink into is kind of the operant way to describe it, really. And it didn't really occur to me for the longest time that maybe everybody had an underlying emotion, and maybe it was a different one that was our default kind of energetic vibration, not in a great way, but kind of like that. And for me, it was sadness and shame. Sadness and shame. And so, until I realized that was kind of like an underlying emotion, I spent many years in various ways processing sadness and shame in therapy with various kinds of teachers and so forth, and just processing it. What do I mean by that? What happened in my childhood, what happened between me and my mother, me and my father, what happened in relationships, what I internalized about all of it, what I made meaning out of it, and various healing methods to release, the emotional pain and all that stuff. And then there was a point where I began to realize it's an underlying energetic even, that it had an energy to it, that it wasn't just not, and actually if we take a moment and actually feel into what emotions are, we will come to that they all have a certain energy to them. That is what they are. They're felt in our bodies, and they're felt as in a certain way as an energy. So this particular one, sadness, shame, sadness itself is just sort of heavy, weighing on the heart, kind of a little bit, has a little pinch to it, a little, but shame is almost like a nauseating, like you got punched in your gut and you're, that kind of thing is kind of like that. but I also experienced other emotions, and I knew that when I got angry, that was not what it was. When I got angry, there was a fire in my body. It came from my gut, and I was on fire, and the fire would come out of my mouth like I was a dragon. um, so that was fire, and when I felt fear, which was not a primary emotion for me, when I felt fear, there was like a energetic tingling, like a that kind of like kind of thing, like my nervous system was vibrating. So I would notice that. But I was like on this exploration. Like this is okay. This is an underlying emotion that is quote mine. Why is it mine? Why is it there? And what do I do about it? And then um, I began to be exposed to other kinds of teachings, like, well, instead of going to the thoughts around it, go to the energy of it, feel it, be in your body, feeling that energy. So I would do that. I could do that, but it didn't do anything for it. Everything that I did, by the way, was to get rid of this. There was never any understanding. I mean, during that time, obviously something shifted. There was never an understanding during that time that acceptance might have been something good to do. I was trying to get rid of it. I wasn't opening up to it. I was going to process it so it was going to go away. I was going to feel it so it would be gone. I was going to kind of almost like rip it out of me, get rid of it, So that was going on. Then there were, and I may not get them in the right order, but there was one shift where I woke up in the morning and I realized that I was heavy and I was sad. Oh, well, that's just how I am, right? That's just how I am because I'm heavy and I'm sad, and that happens all the time. But I stopped myself, finally, stopped myself and thought, huh, what if I just felt this as energy? And I didn't label it sad. And I didn't try to figure out what I did wrong or what happened yesterday that made, that I should feel sad in the morning. Maybe I didn't process it or something. It slipped by. I didn't do that. I finally stopped and said, well, what if it's just energy? And I was like, okay, I'll just be with this energy. And I wasn't trying to get rid of it because it was just energy. And as the day went on, sometime during the day, I realized that I felt better. Was that still there? A little bit. I didn't really care. It didn't really matter to me. So there was that. Another thing happened that was separate from this, where I don't think I wrote about this one. Maybe I did. I don't remember now. I was at a spiritual retreat in a very expanded state. I was just like, whoa! I was so expanded. I was one with the mountains, and I didn't even live in the mountains yet. But I had come up to this area to go on retreat. I can't remember the retreat center. Anyway, it was beautiful, and there was this mountaintop, and I found a swing. Nobody knew about it. I would go to the swing, and get totally expanded, and I was flying, right? And it's like the day before the last day, and I'm sitting in the kind of area. It was silent, but in the area where we would sit in the lobby, kind of thing, and I actually was watching this thing kind of developing, this like shame, sad thing. It was like a cloud that was forming almost right in front of me. It was like in me, but not in me. And I was watching it form, and I was so pissed, I'm in this, I'm in this expanded state. What are you doing here? Get out of, and so I started, I didn't know what to do. So I started walking up to my swing. And on the way, it's like getting in more and more form. It's like really, really it's getting big, And it occurred to me, I just started talking to it. And you're in a spiritual retreat and anything goes. Everybody kind of looks a little crazy at some point. So, I'm walking and there's people around me. I'm going, what do you, so what do you want from me? What is it? What do you want from me? Why are you still here? Why are you, and I'm just talking. And I hear inside me, I want you to see me and accept me. And I was like, oh my God, you're actually answering me. And I thought, okay, well, I've done enough. I mean, I'm already a therapist, for God's sake. So I kind of know what that, I know what that means, see me and accept me. So I said, all right, I see you and I accept you. I am not going to try to get rid of you. And so I'm still talking. I get up to the swing, and it just becomes this energy that I'm in, and it kind of dissolves away into that expanded state that I was in, and that became something that I did, and I would share with people when it seemed right. That like, talk to it. Talk to it. Ask it what it wants from you. You've been processing it for years. Maybe you don't need to process it anymore. Maybe you can talk to it and see what it wants. And it's usually something like, I want you to love me, I want you to see me, I want you to accept me. So there was that. So there was the, like, oh, this is an energy I should just be with. There were those two things that helped me make a shift. Then I started noticing, somewhere in this mix, I would notice that my thoughts created emotions. And I thought that was really the way it went, that my thinking created the feelings. I would have these thoughts about being sad or things that I was ashamed of, and why did I do it that way, and why did this happen to me, and all this, and and even projecting into the future. This will always be like this for me. My life is always going to be like that. And of course, you get sad if you're going to have thoughts like that. So I knew about disengaging from the thoughts and being with the feelings. So I started doing that. Then I began to realize when I would wake up in the morning and there was just a feeling, I would hunt for a reason for it. So it wasn't only that my thoughts created my emotions, but if there was an emotion there, I would search for reasons, meaning. So I would search for the thoughts that would confirm and validate that I really should be ashamed and sad. Great process, right? So those things were going on. So while this is going on, I'm also, this is it is my spiritual work. It may be my psychological work, but it all was my spiritual work. I took this on retreats with myself, in my meditations. So it's all part of my spiritual journey. And then I began to understand some other deeper things about my spiritual journey, or anyone's spiritual journey really, was to take a step back and to witness. And in a way that the retreat scenario, where it was like this cloud of emotional stuff, I was stepped back. It was something that I could watch and observe. So I knew about witnessing and observing it, and not just like getting in it and like, oh, blah, 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 and drowning in it. I knew how to do that. It only took me about 30 years to figure that out. But I by that point, I did know it. I mean, when I'm working with a younger person, I never tell them that because they would probably run out of my office screaming. But anyway, so I knew about witnessing, and I knew about stepping back. And so if you're doing that, you realize that what I can see and know and observe is not me. It's something that's arising in me. That's what and intellectually I understood that. I could feel it though, too. I could have a visceral sense of, if there is sadness here, just to keep it in, we're in my range. If there's sadness here, and I know that there's sadness, then the knower is not the sadness. The knower knows about it, is conscious of it. Sadness is something it looks at, it sees, it is aware of. There's space around it. There's an observer that sees sad. That's cool. So now it's not me. It's just arising there. And since it seems like the right thing to do is let it be there. Say, oh, there you are. Yeah, okay. I can see you. I accept you. I might even feel some tenderness towards it, maybe, And so, I can see that. Now, in my spiritual work, I began to realize that this is interesting. There's a witness witnessing these emotions, and step back a little further, something knows about the witness. There is consciousness that actually is aware of the witness witnessing the emotion. So if there is something aware of witness, which is me witnessing, then maybe I am more that big expanded thing that sees, that knows and sees, and not the things arising in it, including Lissa that is witnessing. Maybe what I am actually is this consciousness, and everything that I am conscious of is within that consciousness. This is where the intellect, the mind, the conscious mind goes like that, and let it do that. It can't grasp it because it is arising in consciousness. So what I'm saying to little Miss Conscious Mind is, you're just an appearance in consciousness. How can you possibly grasp what that is? So that is our true nature. Everything else arises in it, which makes it so much easier now to say, sad is there. Oh, a little anxiety is there. Yeah, I got a little pissed off now, and it's like, all these things show up in there. And interestingly, because I remember having a problem with this notion, when it was still a notion, was, well, wait a second. So does that mean that I can run around being angry and ashamed and, and like just be wild with all these feelings and throw them out and that, because it didn't matter and everything was okay? The thing is that if you really step back and you're noticing that it's all arising, you haven't grabbed onto it, and there's nothing you need to do with it or about it. So they begin to have their natural expression, and there's ease around it. Everything is accepted. It's all included. It's all included in consciousness. But when we run wild with these feelings is when we are merged in them and we believe that we're separate and we have to do something with it. If I'm consciousness and anger arises, I can just, it's like, okay, anger arose. But if I am Lissa and Lissa got angry, I have to get angry at somebody. Because I'm separate and so are you. But if I'm consciousness, we all are consciousness. There is only one consciousness. So it can't be that we all have separate little consciousnesses. We have separate unique thoughts that go on in consciousness, that arise in consciousness. How does that happen? We all have our own wiring and our own conditioning that is unique to us. All of that arises in consciousness, which is not unique to us. But that may be a whole other topic. So, what do I do with this underlying feeling? Recognize it as energy, breathe into the energy, find the thing that knows it, that's witnessing, step back even further so that it is all occurring in something much bigger than what you think you are. And then let it run its course. Let it just do what it needs to do. There was, for some reason, what I'm trying to share is that for me there was a shift where I was like, okay, you're here. And now I so completely understand why you don't try to get rid of it. There's no point in getting rid of it. It doesn't matter that it's going on. It makes no difference. Here's the shift that can happen, maybe, is that we want to get rid of these feelings when we're comparing. I feel good when this feeling isn't there. I feel bad when the feeling is there. And what I'm suggesting is that you step back from I. That it's actually letting, this is really hard to do. I mean, it's like so hard to do and yet so amazing if the shift should happen. That you step back and you notice, you can look at your hands. It's like this, if I'm feeling like this, in this hand, this feels really good. This hand is feeling something else, it feels really bad. This hand feels good, this hand feels bad. This is the emotion that feels good. This is the emotion that feels bad. This one sees both. This one, I'm just using this as a metaphor. This one that is seeing both hands is not either one of those. So if I say, I only want this one, I only want this one, then we only want to be a separate person that only feels this. I don't want to be a separate person that feels this ever. I want to be a separate, alone person that only feels these things. That's what I want. And we can want that. For the rest of our lives, we'll never have it. As long as we have one side, we're going to have the other side. That is always going to be the case. If there's no anxiety, finally I have no anxiety. Oh no, now I have anxiety. And for me, sadness and shame. Oh, sadness and shame. Now I don't have, and it's like this, like being tossed back and forth. And that's why I'm saying, step back. That's why I'm also saying, to fight with it, to try to get rid of this thing, is one is a losing battle, and two, it keeps you in the separate dilemma of being separate, alone, isolated, having to deal with all these feelings, which is not true. It's not the truth. This like seeing this with the two hands really was a big deal for me. I don't remember who I saw do this, but when I saw it, it was like, oh my God, I get it. Two parts of me that I'm the one that's looking at it. I'm looking at my hands. I can see it. I'm not this. I'm not either one. I'm but the truth is that I'm actually even bigger than this one that sees it. So as long as we're stuck in the preference, I want to feel good all the time. I don't like feeling bad. You don't ever have to like feeling bad. You don't, you don't really ever have to do that. It's just not being, when you read about don't be attached to that either. Don't be attached to, when we start the beginning meditation of letting go of everything, being attached to wanting to be a certain kind of person is something that we need to let go of. Being attached to that I want my life to feel a certain way, and I want to feel these things in my life, I don't want to feel other things, is going to be in the way of this. When emotions are inappropriate are when they're only there because we've created them with a thought. Here's an example of that. Just you going with Riley's sadness. So she could be grieving the loss of the relationship. She could make it even worse and make it take longer if she said, and I will be sad in my future forever. So now what that means is that I'm always going to be a sad person and da-da-da-da-da. Now that's not true. There's no truth to it. That's just a projection of a future possibility. But the real thing that's going on is the loss of the relationship. So she's sad. The same with any of them. There could be fear there for some reason, some real reason why there's fear. But as soon as we start saying, and I will always have fear, and I'm always going to be afraid in the future, and that's always, now we're creating more than needs to be there. Scientists are now discovering that consciousness resides outside of the brain and is not owned by anybody. That there's a field of consciousness, and that we have our brains are kind of receptors for consciousness, but there's one. And so if you can imagine a field, and so we're connected there to it, and we have thoughts from our conditioning and our wiring, and then we have inspired thoughts that come from there in. Those inspired ones. They have a really different feeling than, oh my God, I can't believe that. And when it's these this habit, this underlying feeling is from my conditioning and my wiring. So I'm not even responsible for it. I didn't create it. It's from my wiring and my conditioning. And so, but there is one consciousness, and sometimes thoughts and emotions come in from there. And they're divine, they're wise. You didn't know that. It's like, whoa, I didn't know that. Where did that come from? Wow, that's pretty cool that just popped in there like that. That's coming from there, not just from the usual swirl that's happening in there. What's just coming to me right now in this moment as you're saying that is that there is an energy to acceptance and surrender. It's warm, it's soft, that mingles with the other feeling that we are accepting. And it does something to it. So, okay, anything else? Okay, so I'm thanking you all for coming, and we'll do it again. Okay, bye.